Vince, great to talk to you, especially when it's such good news.
Yeah, it's pretty overwhelming. But I think last time we talked, Jenny, at that point I just had to trust in the system.
Yep, and just so people know, just over a week ago, ATF fired you. And now a stay has been issued in your case. And it looks like you've got your job back. Tell us what happened.
Well, to the best of my understanding, again, this has nothing to do with my private litigation currently going on for all the whistleblower reprisals and discriminatory practices and what have you. The Office of Special Counsel, who, I kept apprised throughout this entire process, going back 5 years, initiated an investigation, and they generally don't get involved in two venues, and we're trying to let the private process work through. ATF obviously was not going to change their way of doing business, and then actually gotten worse in terms of retaliating against whistleblowers. It's all in the news and all that. So the Office of Special Counsel, when they saw the action, they just made the decision to step up and oppose prohibited personal practice in terms of firing me for my voicing my First Amendment, rights.
They said it was a violation of your constitutional amendments.
Yes. Number one, I'm not a lawyer. Number two, this was done, with very little input from me in terms of responding to the ATF's wrongful termination, illegal termination, whatever you want to call it. So they, based on their investigation, saw a clear-cut violation of my constitutional rights and took the action on my behalf. It's pretty amazing, but that's how our government works. There's watchdogs to keep people, bosses and ATF, honest.
Well, and the ATF said you were fired for quote-unquote lack of candor. That's why they dismissed you. And it looks like the Office of Special Counsel wasn't buying that.
Well, that's clearly what they're saying. And there never was a lack of candor. There was a bottom line. They objected to my testimony. It made them mad. And this was their attempt to try to ruin my life. Guys, look, they haven't held back anything since the first day I went public with this institutional mandate for retaliation and all the CNN stuff. And, a lot of people have had to leave this job. A lot of bosses have gotten hammered and are going to continue to be hammered merely because I called BS on what I knew to be, corrupt activities.
And this has got to be a rare case.
I do know that this action is not a common practice within the MSPB. They don't get involved, within the OSC. They don't get involved unless they're convinced that there's been a prohibited personal practice. And if you notice in the state, they didn't even need or choose to touch the whistleblower reprisal stuff. That can be dealt with in the litigation and all that. They merely just found a slam dunk basis to get a stay of the action. I told the truth. You didn't like my answer, so you fired me. Mm-hmm. That's a bad precedent for anybody.
The stay says that you will be reinstated to your previous position as a criminal investigator with the same duties, the same responsibilities, but it says this is for 45 days. So what does that specifically mean, Vince?
Well, to the best of my knowledge, it allows the opportunity for the OSC to further their investigation, provide further evidence as to the illegality of the agency's action, their retaliatory animus, their violation of my civil rights. And, this will be a work in progress. They'll request a continuance if they're not, satisfied that their investigation's complete, I guess. And this will go on, and ATF can respond. It'll be interesting. We have bosses that have been publicized as lying to the OIG in Congress, not lacking candor, outright committing perjury, and they're still on the job. There's not even been an action filed against any of them.
And on that issue, Congressman Issa and Senator Grassley just this week sent a letter to the ATF demanding an update on personnel actions taken by the agency after a lengthy investigation by Congress and the Inspector General, including They're focusing on William McMahon, a key player in this scandal, who voted to fire you.
Well, look, I'm just embarrassed to even be having this conversation. I never thought that our leadership could deteriorate to this level, but when a director flat out refuses to answer a senator or a congressman, system's broken. Mm-hmm. Something's wrong with this, quote, transparent leadership in this country. How do you refuse to answer to a congressman?
ISA said in this letter, they made clear, they said at the same time the ATF appears to be helping one of the supervisors responsible for Fast and Furious double dip at taxpayers' expenses, it apparently has no qualms about pursuing a personal action against the man who blew the whistle on this operation. And we're talking about Special Agent John Dodson. Yep.
That is outrageous. It's clear to me that our leadership has just thumb their nose at any accountability, because otherwise they would have acted well before this OIG situation. And who approved McMahon to violate every one of our policies and to be treated with such, I mean, what is he, threatening to roll over on them? Why would they do that? Mm-hmm. Why would they do that? That's against every policy we have. And they're not going to do anything because Mr. Jones knows he's going back to Minnesota. He does not care, never has cared about ATF. Mm-hmm. He was here to tamp down the Fast and Furious and the whistleblowers and the drama, and he keeps saying, oh, don't pay any attention to the man behind the curtain. Let's look forward. Well, we can't move forward until every agent in this bureau knows that they're going to be treated fairly and that there's going to be accountability.
So, Vince, this means you've got your job back, but I guess the big question is, do you want to go back? Are you going back?
You know what? To be continued. I will not be fired by criminals. That I've said all along, and not in a Denny's parking lot for sure.
But this has been a long road for you. You've been fighting this battle for months. You've been the voice for many of these agents who are concerned about the mismanagement and what's going on at the ATF.
Yeah, but it's not over yet, so I can't leave. They're still, I mean, they're referring John Dodson to whatever, and which is, you know, everybody sees exactly what that's about. And there's dozens and dozens of agents nationwide who they just feel free to, you know, use their abuse of authority.
And you
all the way up to the U.S. Attorney's Office, who are defending these lawsuits instead of holding the managers accountable. So, you know, yeah, I'll be going back.
How soon is this that you're going back?
Oh, I was reinstated yesterday, is my understanding. I've not been given direction as to where to report, what to do. I just want my damn guns and badge back.